Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Afropolitan Podcast. Over here, we like to start off with our go-to slogan that says, "Because the brand new is unthinkable, fight over the old." Over here at the Afropolitan Podcast, we're building the future of a progressive Black community. I would like to welcome our special guest for today, Mr. Dayo Koleowo, Managing Director of Microtraction, and also former ex-founder of Chow Hub.
You had to mention that. Oh my God! Thanks for having
welcome
me,
to the
man.
Afropolitan
Thank
Podcast.
you, Eche. Good to be here.
Me too, man. Me too. I'm honored to have you on here. So, Dayo, what we like to do is, first of all, let's tell the people a little bit about your background.
Yeah.
Where you were born,
Mm-hmm.
how you came to. First of all, we want to hear about the Chow Hub journey.
Yeah, sure.
But how you came to be an entrepreneur, and also how you came to be a VC.
Awesome. So I was born in Ibadan, Oyo State, and
we have had 5 guests. I've had 5 guests.
Yeah.
3 out of the 5 have been born in Ibadan.
Nah, I was.
What
born
is
in...
it about Ibadan that is like?
No, I think that there's a lot to it, and maybe we'll touch on it later. But I was born in Ibadan, to a family of 4.
Mm-hmm.
We were 3 at the time. I'm the third born.
Okay.
I have 2 elder brothers and a younger sister.
Okay.
We spoil her crazy, so I'm sure she's having fun. But yeah, I grew up there, and it was, Ibadan is a very calm city, right? Very chilled, very laid back. Really. I wouldn't say cheap, but you can afford to live there and be able to survive relatively. And school there, primary school, secondary school. Then I decided I wanted to run away from my parents, right, and go to another city, and that was Akure. So I went to FUTA, Federal University of Technology, Akure. I had always wanted to study architecture. Because I was so good at technical drawing. I was really dope. I'm not even bragging. Like, I was really, really good. And that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to draw things, building structures, But, with Nigerian schools, when JAMB happens, it just jams you and you decide to go for something else. So I was given quantity surveying, which was a course I had never heard of before. That was in 2007. And I did that for 5 years, right? I even had a plan to move to architecture in my second or third year, but that didn't happen. And it was a good course because it was about numbers. You were build of quantity, designs by architects, and it was very interesting, right? There was a lot of connection between architects and quantity surveyors, and I did that for 5 years. Got out and served my country. 1 year mandatory service.
Yes.
And I did that. I served in Abuja, Federal Capital Territory. Now, mind you, just a little track back, right? After I left school, or while I was in school, I decided not to go back to Ibadan. And the reason why I decided not to go back to Ibadan was because it was too laid back for me. It was too chilled for me. And I felt, looking back now, I feel like if I didn't leave, I don't think I would be where I am right now, because I needed the challenge. I needed the different environment. I needed the hustle and bustle. So, Abuja felt like an upgraded Ibadan, right? It was still chilled, but there was still some form of activity going on.
Why didn't you think about Lagos at the time?
At the time, like, I always come to Lagos because we had family there, but it wasn't something I was thinking about because it was just, every time you think about Lagos, you're thinking about crazy stuff. Too much hustle. You have to be at this particular level, right? And I think for me, my folks also played a role because they were in Abuja at the time, and it was just easier for me to kind of to Abuja and never look back. So I have not lived in Ibadan since I left Ibadan. Just go there and visit.
The train station is coming now.
Well, we'll see about that. But Abuja was good. So I served in Abuja. Finished service. Got a job immediately with a private project management consulting firm. And we were consultants to the federal government. So we worked very closely with the FCT, Federal Capital Territory, building infrastructure at the different municipals and different sectors in Abuja. So, we worked very closely with the government, and it was a different experience because it was different from what I studied, right? I studied quantity surveying, but this was infrastructure financing, and it was totally different. And I think that has look back at my life, I see that I do things that are challenging, that things that are different from what I am used to or naturally used to, right? So I did that for 2 years and I started getting bored. I got bitten by the tech bug, right? You know, I was reading a lot about technology, you know, read a lot about DoorDash starting, a lot about Grubhub, a lot about, you know, the food industry. I traveled to Dubai, and I saw what was happening there. You know, there was Uber Eats at the time there. I was like, oh man, why don't we have something like this in Abuja, right? You know, I came back to Abuja and I was like, okay, you know what? I'm going to start something similar to this.
Yeah.
Obviously, I had no background in
and this
technology.
For our listeners, this is the Chow Hub.
This is Chow Hub, by the way. Yeah. This is Chow Hub.
And can you explain what Chow Hub?
Yeah, sure. So at the time I got back to Abuja, I was like, I called my very close friend, Dara, and I was like, look, he was in Lagos. Like, dude, I think we should start a company, and I think it's gonna be revolutionary. You know, we're gonna hit the incumbents, blah blah blah. And it was just very simple. We wanted to create a website where restaurants can list on our website and can be found. So you're coming to Abuja for the first time. Where are the dope restaurants, right? Yeah. And you just have a list of restaurants with pictures and the food items, right? Then over time, we would offer ordering services where you can now place your order from the comfort of your zone, of your home, rather. And we're thinking about what name to call the company. We're like, what are we going to call it right now, right? And we called it Chow Hub. Really because we were looking at Grubhub and we're like, okay, Grub is like, food, right? What would people call in Nigeria? Chow, right? And we're like, okay, that goes well. And we decided to call it Chow Hub and got my friend to design
and
it.
that domain name was available.
It was first chowhub.com.ng. So there was a Chow Hub already in South Africa, which we didn't know.
Really?
Right. So those are some of the mistakes we made, right? Like we're like, okay, we never knew there was going to be anybody having Chow Hub in any other place, right?
People they think for this life.
Every idea that you have, millions have it as well. So, but it wasn't available. So we went with .com.ng. We were not going to let anybody stop us from doing what we wanted to do. And we ran that. It was a great experience. I used to tell my founders at the time, I said, look, this is a stepping stone for us. It's not the end and be all, right? We should take whatever learnings. We'll make a lot of mistakes. We're first-time founders anyways. We didn't have a developer in the team, and that was one of the biggest mistakes we made because every money that we had.
What was everybody's background?
So I didn't have a technology background, so I was a construction background. My guy who had done some stints in some products in technology, but through products angle, didn't have any developer background as well. He read chemistry, but we loved technology, right? And we outsourced our technology, and we're like, look, we're not going to stop because we're not technology guys. We're not going to stop this problem that we wanted to solve, right? We're not going to stop doing it, right? So we decided to go head on and solve the problem. And it was good. We had some wins and we had many losses as well, but it was a good experience for us. And like every startup or most startups, most startups die, right? And, it's my baby. You're like, oh, I don't want it to die. It was a very tough market. Restaurant business or the online ordering business is still a very tough market, even till now, right? And exactly, right. There's logistics, there's the restaurants themselves, there's customer, satisfaction, payments, and at the time was when the Paystack and Flutterwave were starting, and it was just interesting to see, and it's interesting to see how things have changed over time. But anyways, we started dying, and my co-founder had to move. He moved to Lagos and went for his master's in the UK. And I was like, what next? I was doing a lot of reading around fundraising because we couldn't raise funds, right?
What does the grieving process look like for when a startup is dying? Is it you guys meet, talk about, we're about to die?
This is what's happening, right? So it was glaring, right, that we were going to die. It was inevitable. But, you want to still just keep pushing, right? So we would have, we never really had direct conversations about it, to be honest, right? It was pretty much, what were the numbers saying? The numbers were going down. And we're like, I don't know, we're doomed.
How many users do you have on the platform?
At the time, we had, at the peak, we had close to 500 active users monthly.
Okay.
Yeah. And those are folks that were ordering at least twice a day. Do you understand? You know, across the board, right? So it was good. We made some money. We made up to like, I don't know, I can't remember exactly how much, but it was a couple of thousands of dollars, right?
Okay.
But a lot of it was also being shared between ourselves, logistics, operations, you know, and obviously giving back to the restaurants who we made.
Okay, so let's transition to your journey with Microtraction.
Absolutely.
How did you transition from quantitative surveying?
Quantity surveying.
Quantity surveying.
Yeah.
To being a founder of Child Hub.
Yeah.
And then you already expressed you used to read a lot about the tech industry.
Yeah.
How did you then go from all of that to joining Microtraction?
Absolutely. So I think one of the things that has helped me a lot is when I see an opportunity, I take it. And I'll give you a very quick story of how I joined Microtraction, right? So Dara, my co-founder, when he went back to Lagos for a quick job, just to do while he was trying to apply for his master's, and he cold emails Dotun, who is the founder of Starter, right? And he says, I want to work with you. He gets the job and he's told he has to work with Yele. And Yele was the managing director for Starter in Lagos at the time. Yele just came back from the UK and, you know, they were working together. And that happened 3 months. You know, he mentioned that there's a guy in Abuja called Dayo that is running a startup. You know, that was where I got to meet Yele for the first time. And he came to Abuja and we met for the first time. And that was it. 1 year later, I see a tweet by Dotun congratulating Yele. Hey, congrats to my guy who has started a new fund. And I'm like, what?
New fund?
How
old is Yele at this point?
I don't know, maybe 26, 27.
New fund.
New fund.
I
was on my phone and I remember vividly what I was doing. I was on my phone trying to maybe sort out an order. And I messaged Dara. Dara was in Dublin at the time. I was like, dude, do you remember Yele? He said, yes. He started a new fund. What? You need to reach out to him now. And say, look, first of all, congratulations. What you're doing is dope.
Yes.
But we want to be part of this. And we sent an email. Dara sent the email, obviously, because he had the better connection with Yele at the time. He sent the mail. You know, so he sent the email, you know, we congratulated him. Then he responds and says, oh, cool, chill. Like, this is dope, right? And I was like, look, this is not the response I'm looking for, right? We told you we want to work with you, right? I said I'll send another email. So I sent another email the second day and said, look.
But you send the email.
I send the email now.
It's like you're not understanding the
exactly. Like you don't think you get what we're trying to say. Like
this is not one of those.
This is not. I'll get back to you later. Nah.
Or let me see what I can do.
Sorry, it has to happen.
See what you can do now.
And so I sent that email, and when that happened, he was like, "These guys are serious." You know, I even told him, I was like, "Look, work for you for free." And I think, you know, he was like, because I knew at the time, AJ, that there was nobody working with this guy. He's young, he's fresh, you know, he's probably not going to be able to pay that much money. So people wouldn't want to work for free. But we will work for free. Maybe it was out of desperation because we were having a dying company anyways.
But did you also see it as a expansion? So what's the word I'm looking for? Forward momentum in the sense of the money in of itself is not the priority right now. The purpose is. Right?
No, absolutely. So it was more of, I get what this guy is trying to do, right? And I believe in the vision, right? And I really want to be a part of this. Remember, I don't have any background in investments. I never had a background in entrepreneurship. The only background I had was construction. And each of the times I've been like learning very fast. So that wasn't going to be a problem for me. Like I had read a whole lot. At the time on Snapchat, I was following Justin Khan, who was a partner at YC at the time. And he had already sold his company, Twitch and all that stuff. Justin was doing workouts in his house and he'll be talking about investment tips and founders and what they should look out for and not. And I was following that. I was following Mark Schuster of Both Sides of the Table. You know, there were a lot of people. I was following YC's founder program. So I knew a lot about investing, but just knowledge, right? And I was like, dude, I want to work with you. So we had a call It was like, okay, it looks like these guys are serious. Okay, let me have a call with you. Send me your CV. We had a 1-hour call. We talked about child, the failings and the learnings. And it was like, that the kind of people I want to work with. And it was like, let's do it. So Yele was in Lagos. I was in Abuja. Dara was in Dublin. And that was how we started working on Child. And I joined Child like 3 weeks after it launched. So I'm pretty much been involved from the very beginning to...
You mean Microtraction?
Yeah, Microtraction. Yeah. Sorry, Microtraction, I mean, from the very beginning up until now. And it's been a very great progress so far.
So for our listeners,
Sure.
people who are not familiar with how VCs work or funds work, first, can you talk about what it looks like to... Like when a startup reaches out to you, what is that filtering out process like? It's almost like you're a new age record label. And artists are coming up to you like, yo, can you listen to my CD?
Yeah.
Like I got this music.
That's a good
the
analogy.
whole thing, right? And you see so many all the time. I can't even imagine how many pitch decks you see a week.
Yeah.
So
a lot.
What formula or what methods do you use to then filter out?
So
and does it also depend on whether it's a warm introduction? Obviously, all these things count. Like,
a lot of those things count. Yeah. So earlier on in my journey into Microtraction, you were learning a lot about how to assess a company, right? Okay, what do you look out for? Is it the team? Is it the product? You know, is it the markets? You know, and we have an open application, so people apply every day. Sometimes we'll have like 20 applications a day. And you have to read through everything. So I was literally reading through every question that was...
A lot of pitch decks.
A lot. So, and we thought about it because we used to have a very long list of questions. Like, nah, we can't do this. Let's reduce these questions to about 10. But very solid 10 questions that will give us a very good idea of what these people are doing. And so over time, right, you got better because you can sense bullshit as fast as possible. Remember, I was a founder. So like I know all the speaks and you know the markets. I know we have 180 million people in Nigeria. You know the market is huge.
Audio.
I'm like, I know. You know. So over time, I was able to distill, you know, a good pitch from a bad pitch. Immediately, I see an application. I go to the pitch. I see the one-liner pitch. I understand what they're trying to say. I go straight to traction. I see what they've done, then I go to the team. Like it was that fast. So nowadays, I don't even spend more than like, I don't know, 10 seconds or 15 seconds. Once when I see an application, I know if I'm interested or not. And because of the fact that we are sector agnostic, which means that we invest in all types of sectors, right? As long as it's tech driven or tech enabled or deep tech, right? We will automatically like be interested, right? So I am not looking for the sector. I'm looking for something that someone has built that is interesting, that people would love to use, right? So that's been the process so far in trying to distill the number of emails and pitches and Twitter DMs and Instagram DMs that I get over time.
Have there been any companies you passed on that went on that... Actually, let me reframe. Have there been companies that you passed on that... And when I use the word regret, it's not heavy regret, but that if you could have a do-over, you would probably bet on them.
Actually.
So
no, at all. And the reason is you have, as an investor, you have to tell yourself that you can't invest in everything.
Of course.
Right? And you would miss some and also invest in some, right? So if you have that mindset, because you're gonna see so many companies, and you're not gonna invest in all of them, and a lot of them will make a lot of sense, right? And you're not gonna beat yourself up about it, right? But I think that there might be one as Microtraction as a whole, right? But me personally, I don't think there's been any company that we passed on that went on to do great things, and I'm like, I wish we came in, because there will always be a numerous number of companies that will still do well and we still want to get in as well.
So in terms of, I don't know if you wanted to talk about it right now, but Microtraction usually focuses on early stage startups, right? What does the funding landscape currently look like in Africa today? Like when Microtraction first started, it was minuscule. Think about the funding.
No, absolutely.
But it seems like in 2021, there's a lot more capital around. What would you say is the reason for that?
So I'll give you some context, right? So when we started in 2017, obviously the idea had started since 2016, right? There were only few people writing checks, like few angels writing checks. So you have incubators, you would have accelerators, and there will be demo days. And at the demo day, only 1-2 startups will raise money, right? And that money raised will be like $5,000 or $10,000, right? And we were like, no, but there are dope people doing dope stuff, right? Like, why can't we find enough investors to invest? And that was the gap, right? Which is the pre-seed funding gap, the gap that needed that first check, right? And we were willing to write $15,000 checks into companies, right? And give them that first institutional money, right? For them to, it was what we call catalytic funding, right? To help you just boost and, test the market and see and validate your product, right? Fast forward 4 years later, things have changed. And the reason things have changed is a lot of companies have been started. Companies like Paystack and Flutterwave have helped a whole lot.
Ecosystem.
Because of payments. Money is almost everything, right? So you if you're starting any company that has to do with money, you have to make payments, right? And so Flutterwave starting and Paystack starting meant that there were a lot of founders that are going to build on top of that. Right? And that means that you would have the piggy vests, the cowrie rices, you have the rice vest, you will have even health tech.
Even the stacks on top of those stacks.
On top of those stacks, right? So it was it's like people were building on top, you were standing on the shoulders of Paystack and Flutterwave, right? Also, we started telling our stories too, right? People started knowing that, these were people, they were founders in Africa that were building stuff, right? Mind you, some of the angels, there were angels in our own fund that knew about what Microtraction was doing, right? And they would have told their friends, something is happening in Africa, you should pay attention. I think something is going on there. So please look towards Africa and come and invest, right? And I also feel like there's been some successes, right? So successes in terms of traction. Companies have built products that people love. It's not rosy.
No pun intended.
They build products that people love, right? And it's not all rosy, right? Like there are mistakes and, there can be a lot of improvements, but there's been a lot of success around building stuff that, people want to use every day. Actively, right? And that has helped a lot. And a lot of money has come in because of this as well. So now you have more investors playing in the stage that we play, which is, I think, the most difficult stage to play in is the pre-seed, because you actually don't really know if there's going to be a success at the end of the day. But trusting the founders and you're trusting that the markets will be kind to them, because markets can be very unkind to people, right? And so things have changed over the last 4 years, and we're happy about that because it means that there's more money, more value, more people that want people to succeed. And you now have more venture backable founders even investing in founders as well.
Do you also feel like because of the additional capital involved, a fund like yours can then raise another fund or co-raise a fund with another fund? Whereas if you were just the only players in town back then, write your check, but then it's up to the founder to go find
so there's co-investments now.
Co-investments,
right? Because there are now more funds.
Yeah.
Right. And obviously funds have their different theses and criteria and what works for them. But I know we know a couple of people that we love to work with and we've done co-investments with as well. Right. And so it makes life easier for the founders to raise money. So if I come in as Microtraction, I'm like, I know HA that runs the Afropolitan Fund, right? And he can also write
that check,
right? And not just the check, he is valuable.
Yeah.
And his network is as wide as mine, and they're all different. And so that's good for the founders. As a founder, exactly, right? So that needs to happen. It needs to happen more because running a company is difficult and hard, right? And so the more people you have on your side have not just money, but valuable experience and can add value to you, better for you.
I had a question. You have the question in your head. What I wanted to ask is, did they pay me? Because it's a really good question I wanted to ask. And I think it was focused on...
Don't worry, it will come to you.
It has to come off from the founder's perspective. Actually, let's circle back to the question.
Fine.
COVID hits. what was the thought process? World ending? Were you worried about the investments? Will you collect the check in heaven? What's going on?
Now, when COVID hit, man, we were like, okay, which of our portfolio companies are going to get hit the most? Let's start talking to them and like, look, what are you going to do? And so we reached out to, all our companies. We knew those that were in good standing. We knew those that were raising money. We knew those that had started raising money. We knew those that are like already they're struggling, but we're not there yet. They were just starting to pick up and COVID happened. We knew those that were going to benefit from COVID as well. So you look at logistic arm route, for instance, right? They benefited because people were trying to deliver stuff, right? And people were not moving around. And so in our heads, we were like, okay, let's take a pause. Let's look at our portfolio company and see how we can help. And it wasn't bad after all, to be honest. Like we had maybe one or two of them that really struggled, but they're back on track right now. And they struggled because there was nothing you could do about it. Like you couldn't stop it because it was heavily dependent on people being outside of the house, right? But yeah, it wasn't as bad because we had different conversations even with other investors, and we're like, oh, it wasn't that bad. Thankfully, we invest in companies that are, number one, technology first, right? Like, so it means that regardless of what happens, you can still provide your solution or product to customers. And so that was good, right? So, but obviously there are the economic factors and other factors that would affect the company, laying off their staff and stuff like that. But it wasn't as bad as, for us and for our portfolio company, it wasn't really bad. And a lot of them are really good at a good place right now. And I'm happy about that.
That's good. Yeah. So one of the other questions I wanted to ask, because I'm very, very fascinated with this space.
Yeah.
I think long term, I would want to play in the VC fund space.
Yep.
Or even as an operator, go from founder definitely to graduate, right? How much does signaling play a role in terms of investing? Not just signaling, but momentum, right?
Yeah.
Like when a startup is coming, how much of that plays a role in your investment strategy? And what I mean by this is, if people see Microtraction on the cap table and they know Microtraction is those are the star players. That's like Messi.
Those are the Messi and Ronaldos. Yeah.
Messi and Ronaldos.
Yeah.
Have you seen that affect how founders are able to go on to raise more? And would you? Because it also seems like I even see the same thing. Like people have made the same assumption with YC, right?
Yeah.
Where you're a YC backed company.
It's easier for you to raise money.
Let's just throw in something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think there's an element of that, right? I wouldn't want to bullshit you.
It's mostly human, right?
No, it's human. Yeah. It's human, right? It's like you see something good, right? It's a good signal. People always try to feel like there's no signaling anywhere. There is signaling in most professions. Like
that guy get taste.
Like
I trust your taste.
I trust your taste, and I trust your judgment. Right.
Even if you mess up with this one, at least 98% of the time, your judgment
is always right, right? So there's signaling, right? And you will hear people say, "Oh, the reason why I've come to Microtraction is not even because of the money, because it's because of number one, the types of companies that we have invested in and they're doing well, types of founders we have invested in, and they've spoken to those founders and they're like, "No, these guys have been very valuable to them. Like, you should be on this cap table." Right? It also signals investors as well, right? In the sense that, like almost half of our companies have gone on to raise from other investors and maybe gone into YC and 500 startups or Techstars. And they're like, if you get into Microtraction, you have Microtraction on your cap table, you might be able to get into those. But at the end of the day, it's signaling. Yeah. But you still have to do the work.
School fees has to be
paid. I always tell people, like, look, dude, like, you get into the door, but you still have to talk.
What you do after that is up to you.
You still have to talk. So people just feel like, you come into Microtraction and it's a very easy gateway into YC. No, it doesn't work like that. A lot of the credit goes to the founders, not to us, because they work day and night. Like, I've been a founder before, so I know how crazy it is.
Yeah.
And I don't envy founders at all. But what they do is incredible, right? And so I always give credit to the founders because at the end of the day, they're the ones waking up in the morning and solving people's problems. We're just being the supporters and helping them. So they're signaling 100%, right, on founders and even on investors. And I can tell you that they're signaling on investors as well because they've seen that, oh, you've done this much investments into quality startups. I think I want to work with this person.
Yeah.
Right. And it's something that we've been seeing even as we also look to expand Microtraction.
Yeah. So we're going to go a little political, just a little.
Okay.
In the sense that it seems like the announcements from the tech sector, maybe we'll say 8 years ago, maybe the Nigerian government, it was oil and gas and all these other sectors that were booming. Traditional sectors. And now I think the article came out with tech is the new oil. What do you feel and what is your sense of startups love the initial announcements of PR, like, hey, we've raised, because it's PR. Like it's PR.
It's good. It's good signaling too.
It's good signaling too.
And
if that comes with the attention of Mephi, are startups now supposed to not announce as much? Because there was a time on Twitter you log in,
somebody has raised.
Someone found a raise, but then it'll be like, this is our revenue, this is how much. I don't think I see much of that anymore. I think it's actually, I don't remember the last time I was on Twitter and anybody was publishing their numbers anymore.
Open numbers.
Transparency, they cost.
Yeah.
You've come to find out. Would you say those are the challenges, some of the challenges of building in Nigeria, and is that also the right approach?
It's tough, right? Like, and it's painful and it's sad where you see founders trying to solve problems for average citizens, and the government is not in any way being supportive and helping. And all they do is once there's a win for the tech, is a win for Nigeria. No, people actually worked hard, right? And like you said, right, there were a lot of people that were building openly. And it helps a lot with transparency. It helps also other founders that are coming up, right? But lately we've been seeing that dwindle, right? People are not doing that anymore. And the reason is just because the government is not just supportive, or they're looking for ways to kind of clamp down on innovation, right? And progress, right? And I wouldn't blame anybody, right? Like, you want to solve problems and you want to make money. You're solving people's problems and you're trying to make a living for yourself, because at the end of the day, what has happened with technology, our generation, that we've seen a shift from what the government or folks in government are used to, something so different that they probably don't understand. They've not taken time to kind of sit down with the folks who are building stuff and say, educate me.
Yes.
Let me understand what you're doing, and I want to be part of what you're doing because you're solving problems for people, right? So it's a challenge that you see with a lot of the founders. But one thing I like about Nigerian founders or African founders,
resilience.
Oh my God, like, there's a problem. That problem is the way. There's a problem that we're going to go head on, and we will find a way to solve the problem, And not to say too much about, but, the crypto side where, recently the government brought out the circular and policy. People would always find ways. You can't stop water.
Can't stop it.
We're so fluid.
Water flows.
Flows, and we flow. Technology flows, right? So I think there's not much we can do in terms of like trying to help the government understand. If they're ready, we're ready.
Yeah.
But you're not going to stop us from building the future that we want, because at the end of the day, we are the future and we are the ones that would live in that future, right? Or our children, right? So
definitely
super important to continue.
So I think last question before we wrap up.
Yeah.
What would you say is the impact of the internet or even technology on the lives of the Nigerian youth today? Like, what has the internet been able to allow us to achieve?
Oh man, I can speak for myself. And I'm sure when I speak for myself, I speak for millions of people in the world today, is that the internet has brought the world to you. And so you can absolutely do anything. You can achieve anything. You can solve anything as long as you're willing to learn, to execute, and to move very fast.
Yeah.
Because the internet is so fast, right? Like, things pop up every day, right? And so I always tell people, like, use the internet and make the best use of it.
Yeah.
And right now you can code without leaving the comfort of your zone. You can join Microsoft from Ajegunle.
Yeah, true.
You can have clients in Australia,
anywhere in the world,
without having seen them.
Yeah.
There are people who have met, who have met on the internet that I've never seen before.
Find love.
You can find love, you can find investments, you can find founders. The pandemic showed us that there are a lot of things now that we can do without seeing each other physically, right? And that's what the internet does. And I think it's high time that everybody realizes that, and not just ourselves, but even our government as well, that look, the internet is here to stay and you can't stop us, right? Like people would always look for ways to solve whatever problems that they face. And that's the beauty of the internet. Like it's just in our hands.
So one thing we want to start doing for the podcast is giving our audience the type of books that you've read that are the most impactful in your life.
Yeah.
So if you can give maybe 2 or 3 that you can recommend that have been the most impactful. And the reason why I say this is there is benefits to reading because it helps unlock different sides of you. So what books throughout your journey would you say have been the most impactful? If you have 2 or 3 or even one, there was one you could recommend.
I think that there's one I would recommend. It's Shoe Dog.
Shoe Dog, okay.
Phil Knight.
Yeah.
And it talks about his story and it's a biography of Phil Knight and his journey starting Nike. It was tough back then.
Bruh, to do a business.
it was freaking tough.
It wasn't beans.
This dude had the audacity to leave the United States and go to Japan. Then he comes back to the US. I think gets a loan or something from his dad or something like that. And he orders shoes from Japan. Mind you, there was no technology. You have to wait for like 3 months to get your orders. And then you now have to start selling. And he was selling from the trunk of his car. Like, if you're a founder,
and you're complaining,
you should read that book, and you would learn a lot about how people have built stuff with the little that they have. So we're super blessed right now to have in the internet age where things are, I'm not saying things are easy, but it's still difficult, right? But
the cost, the barrier, the cost of entry is definitely lower.
Super lower. Like you can literally now order things and get to you on the same day, right? So like that's a book I would definitely recommend. I mean, there are a bunch of others, but Shoe Dog by Phil Knight is a dope. Then if you're talking about just life in general, like The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck is
by Monroe.
Yeah, that's something I would also recommend.
You know my favorite quote from that book?
Yeah.
Is he talks about breadth of life versus depth. Do you remember that portion?
I think so.
So one of the examples he says is you can know what it feels like to be with 8 women from maybe 8 countries or whatever, but you won't know what it feels like to be with one woman in 8 years, like the depth, the long,
so rather than the width is the depth.
I've been with 8 women in 1 year, versus
I've been with one woman in 8 years. Yeah, that's his deep, right?
I remember when he said that it was a wake up call because we are all about experiences and holistic experiences, and I was like, we don't know what it feels like to be
for that long, right? Like,
but there's something that's unlocked that you won't know until you've done that. Right?
Absolutely.
So you can't skip the process. So those are 2 amazing books.
Two amazing books. Definitely. Like that are just, different, but like are very, very apt in one's life. Like it's super important.
Dayo, thank you again for coming. Can you tell the people how they can connect with you?
Yeah, I'm on I'm a private person, but I'm on Twitter.
Clubhouse.
Nate Call. I'm on Clubhouse. Nate Call. I'm on that's NATEKORL.
Yep.
And I'm on Instagram. Sometimes I like to have, the soft life, learning from HAA as well.
Oh my Dayo, thank you for coming through to the Afropolitan Podcast.
Thank you very much for having me. This is dope, man.
Definitely, man.
Thanks a lot.
Appreciate you.
Yeah.
We're off.